Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this school board meeting, this highly unusual school board meeting of Tuesday, March the 17th, 2020. The meeting is now called to order. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda for this meeting?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Certain and seconded by Dr. McNeely. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'm like to offer an amendment to the published agenda. I'm moving that we limit tonight's meeting to section G, items 1 through 8, so that would be the consent agenda, and action items 1 through 4, with public input accepted before any item we're voting on. Also, adding superintendent's comments to address the COVID-19 situation as she deems fit. I think that's my motion. The reason I'm doing this is I think it's in all of our interest to get out of here, and we're going to be, as always, hearing public input on things that we're directly voting on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. So you're recommending, or you're making a motion to restrict the discussion to 2 items, citizens input and...
Anything we're going to vote on, citizens would vote. We're not going to I'm recommending we don't have a general citizen input, that it's simply for each, so that's my motion. I don't know if there's a second or not.
It's been moved by Dr. Paulson to second the motion. Any discussion on that?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I know that we have a mission to get out as soon as possible, but for the items under action especially, I have some discussion and I would not like to be limited into what I need to say.
If I could, Madam Chair.
Sure.
My motion did not in any way, and I'm sorry, Dr. McNeely, if I wasn't clear, I'm sure I wasn't. I would not in any way limit or board member discussion, board member comments on items we're voting on.
Thank you.
At all. That's not never was my intent.
Thank you.
Do you withdraw your...
No, my motion's still there.
I go along with...
I'm saying, what I'm saying is, we're not going to do end of meeting comments. We're not going to do announcements. The only board, when we have a board discussion on an item that we're voting on, of course, we have board discussion.
I understand that, but inasmuch that the superintendent is going to give us updates, there will be discussion when she does that section of the agenda.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, which was made by Mr. Hyatt?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion passes. So we do have a report from the superintendent on an update of the COVID.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
We need to vote to adopt the agenda as amended.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we, all in favor of the motion as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yes, sure.
Just make sure, we
Of course,
Okay, and everything, so that citizens can be able to. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, yes. So I vote in agreement with that.
Okay, and the motion was voted on by the board, and the motion was 5-0, so the motion passes on the amended agenda. Now, we go to the superintendent, Mrs. Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wrote my remarks to try to keep as brief as possible. Just within the last hour, Governor DeSantis has ordered all public schools to, I say extend their spring break because this was originally for March 30th, but public school students will not return to school until April 15th, which means at this point, we will not have children in schools until that time. But I think we all recognize that this is a very fluid situation, so we can't even be certain that we will be reopening then. At this time, the guidance we have from the Department of Education is they will be looking at the situation on a 2-week basis. So every 2 weeks after April 15th, they will be looking at that to determine when and if we would return to school. Also part of this is that the governor has suspended or eliminated FSA testing. All FSA testing grades K through 12, also any school readiness exams, VPK exams, all of those have been eliminated for this school year. So in the meantime, part of the original governor's declaration was for us to develop an instructional continuity plan that would be put into effect if school was out beyond March 30th, and district staff has been working on that this week. Today, we sent out a survey to our families to respond about computer and internet access. And while we recognize that those who don't have internet access would not be able to respond to that survey, but that will give us good information. So our responses will actually show us where some of our needs are, because we'll be able to basically reverse the information to see who doesn't have it by the virtue of how many respond to the survey. So we are working on that. Part of what the governor shared in his plan was that all instruction grades 6 through 12 would be virtual, which does impact families in our community. And so we are working on getting some clarification on that. As I said, this is all happening just before the meeting, but we had planned to have some hard copy in print options for our students as well. So we want to make sure we have that clarification. We will have that available for parents as we move towards March 30th, because next week is our spring break, which normally students would be out of school. Which leads me to talk about how we feed our children. We're one of only 30 school districts who are still providing meals to students while schools are closed right now. However, there are a large number of school districts on spring break, which may impact that. Today, we provided 2,500 lunches and just under 2,400 breakfasts at our sites, mostly at schools, but we also have a couple of sites where we partnered with the city of Gainesville. And we're way ahead of most districts in that area. To put it in context, Broward County Schools, it's about 10 times our size. They have 9 sites set up to serve 300,000 students, and we have 34 sites set up for our community. So I'm very proud of the great work that our food and nutrition staff, including 10-month staff who volunteered to work this week so we could get our children fed, and also wanted to recognize the city of Gainesville and the city of Waldo and some other community partners for pitching in to make sure that our families have food and meals for our children. The one thing about feeding children on Friday this week, which was an originally scheduled teacher workday, and during spring break, the current guidance, even as of today from the federal government, is that they are not allowing school districts to provide food when schools were already scheduled to be out. So we have already gotten in touch with some local organizations to see how we can help support that effort. But those federal guidelines are pretty strict, and so we want to make sure that we are following those. But we've also, Jackie Johnson and Kelly Costomo have called some of our community partners together to see how we can support that, where they could potentially still have our schools serve as feeding sites or pickup sites. But those would not be school lunches. Those would potentially be purchased food from other sources. Things like that, but we will be working on that tomorrow. We've got a meeting scheduled tomorrow, as I recall, to be able to do that. But we want to make sure our kids are fed, and we will assist that in any way possible. With that, there's obviously a lot going on. Those are the highlights of what we have. you know, this is a very fluid situation, and we will continue to keep families and staff posted on our updates. I want to thank our terrific staff for all of the extra time they're putting in. I know we're all government employees, but this situation kind of shines a light on what it really means to be a public servant. We've had a lot of people volunteering to come in and how can they help, and we've got some incredible employees in this district, and so I just want to take a moment to thank them. And to our families and their community for their flexibility and support. The community is rallying around us right now as we speak. The community is being flexible. We're working with our other partners. You know, we are in uncharted territory, and we do appreciate their support. So as we receive more information, we'll certainly provide those updates to all of you, to the board, to our staff, and to our families. But I just wanted to provide that brief update. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. We'll go now to the consent agenda.
So are we not doing questions or discussion, or we need to wait for Mrs. Clark to do hers at the very end? Is that what we agreed upon?
You have a question about what Ms. Clark said?
Absolutely.
Mr. Delaney, is that fine?
That'd be absolutely appropriate.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I wasn't sure if what I heard about getting ready for the seniors and all of our technology, I just heard that sometime today. And I'm just wondering if you were going to address that at the end, or can you address that now?
Well, what we found out was that what the governor said, and this is where we need to get some clarification. The governor said the requirement was for all 6 through 12 to be virtual, which was news to us. Originally, the instructional continuity plan was not solely to be virtual. We were figuring out additional ways, so there would be print resources or virtual. So that's what we're meeting about this evening, to try to figure out how we can do that. And when it comes to actual virtual instruction for the students, that may be involving checking out some of our current computers at our schools to our families. I've already contacted emergency management about how we can potentially leverage Cox Communications. I know they've got a program, but there were some caveats to that program. If they could lift those restrictions, that would help.
And I
Anything
thank
like
you
that.
for that information. My comment was leading to the training of the teachers for the, educating them on how to teach virtually. And I was wondering if that would be this week, or you're gonna use spring break week, or how are you going to facilitate that?
Our goal is to get that out by Thursday at the latest to our teachers, so they have plenty of time, because it will be something we would push through email that they could watch, so we're not bringing teachers in.
I get
And
that.
so-
Is it spring break time, Mrs. Clark, or after spring break?
Well, for students, they will start on the 30th. For teachers, they would have tomorrow and Friday. We've also had, teachers who have not been at work this week. If they chose to do it on their spring break, they could do that. The goal would be that by the end of spring break week, that they would have participated in that training opportunity, but they would have some days this week to do that, because they should be on call essentially to complete their tasks this week. So they would have plenty of time to do that, depending on the day they pick to do it. They could do it whatever time of day.
So based on your comments, I figure that the training will be at least no longer than 48 hours, because you're saying they would have time for the rest of this week to get the training
Yes,
done.
yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Staff had already been working on it. We started on that right away Monday morning.
I get
So
that.
we were trying to get it ready for them in advance, so.
I get the staff is. I'm saying the teachers.
Sure.
Who must deliver.
Right.
And do it well and effectively.
Absolutely, absolutely. We just wanted to get ahead of it, so we would be ready to get it to the teachers as quickly as possible. We thought this might be coming. We were trying to stay one step ahead of DOE.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are there any other questions from board members? Hearing none, we'll go then to the consent agenda. Mrs. Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recommend that the school board approve the consent agenda as described in items 1 through 8.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Hyatt, seconded by Dr. McNeely. Is there any discussion of consent items? Hearing none, all in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion passes. We will go on to action items. Number 1, Mrs. Johnson and Mr. White. I think Mrs. Johnson is presenting this item. I-
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. I wanted to share with you some information about the transitional campus site selection. A lot of this information you already received from the superintendent a few days ago, but I wanted to share this as kind of an update. First, as you know, traffic and feasibility studies were conducted on Westwood Middle School, Bishop Middle School, and the piece of property in between Rawlings Elementary School and the Traffic Safety Center site. That included draft site plans, traffic impact and mitigation information, cost comparisons, advantages, disadvantages, all that information that was shared both at the March 4th School Board Workshop and at the March 5th Community Meeting. And of course, we had the results presented, but we also got public input at both of those sessions. Since that time, additional research has been conducted based on the public input. That includes things related to site engineering, the site design, use of West Side Park, and so on and so forth. Since the workshop and since the community meeting, we now have some additional developments. That includes information from the City of Gainesville that says that the renovations at West Side Park should be completed in October or November of 2020. Which means then the site will be available for use for parking, for bus staging, and for recreation and other uses. Based on the public input, we heard particularly concerns about traffic and bus stacking on Northwest 31st. Our architect, Paul Stressing, came up with a revised parking area design. You remember that was the area that was going to serve as the main parking lot for the transitional school. That has been now expanded to allow its use as a bus loop if that happens to be the site that's chosen. And it could be used as soon as Bishop Middle School vacates from that property, which eliminates the stacking of buses on Northwest 31st Drive immediately. We wouldn't even have to wait until the Westwood project is done. They would have that relief from the stacking of buses on 31st immediately. The architect and our facility staff looked at the potential redesign of the site at Rawlings and the Traffic Safety Center based on the staff and public input that we heard particularly at the community meeting, but also at the board workshop, and I'm sure you all recall some of those concerns that people had. What we have found, however, is that would add to the cost of that project, and it would delay the start of Bishop Middle School for a year. As we talked about at the community workshop, the use of the transitional site would be limited to 3 schools: Bishop, Westwood, and Littlewood Elementary School. We have, since the meeting, conducted a review of all future school projects to determine are there any that would also need a transitional school. And what we have found is that only 2 schools might, and I stress might, need a transitional off-site school. That is Gainesville High School and Santa Fe High School. None of the 3 proposed sites would fit either one of those schools. So that would be out of the question to use any one of those sites that you were to choose for those schools. And the additional issue, of course, with Santa Fe High School is it would be a ridiculous length to bus students to get to any one of those sites. We also have the new development, some property that had been under contract, and actually I think it was actually sold. That right next to Gainesville High School, you recall there's that office building there. That property had been sold. It has now gone back up on the market. And so we have an opportunity to possibly get that piece of property, which would certainly allow us flexibility to do the site, to do GHS without having to move to a transitional site at all. Based on the 3-school limit, the use of the site would be for 3 to 5 years. Based on the most conservative 5-year estimate to get the projects done, The annual cost would be as you see above. The Westwood site would cost about $2.97 million per year. The site between Rawlings and the Traffic Safety Center would run about $3.57 million per year, but that does not include the modifications that would need to be made if we were to follow some of the recommendations and suggestions that were made by the school community. And the Bishop site would run $3.8 million per year. And at this point, that is all the information we were going to share with you, but if you have any questions, of course, we have staff who are upstairs listening, and they are certainly willing to run down and answer any questions you may have that I may not be able to answer.
So, Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
were you planning to have citizen comment before board
Yes, ma'am.
discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Clark? I mean, Ms. Johnson
Ms. Clark.
or staff? I'm sorry, on what she said. Yes, Ms. Certain.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. If the 3 schools will be done, is the projected completion time 5 years for the 3 schools?
That would be the most conservative. It would be somewhere between 3 and 5 years, and so we use the 5 years at most. That's how long it would be. I mean, barring any unforeseen circumstances, if a hurricane comes through or suddenly you can't get, raw materials or there are a whole lot of other things that could possibly happen, but we have no intention of using the site beyond those 3 schools, and so we'd be looking at a 3 to 5 year time frame for completion.
That's why I was asking. I was wondering if we were thinking one project would take an entire year or school year. And so I was trying to figure out why the 5 keeps being used if it's 3.
Well, for example, Westwood, we're not going to move all 1,200 students out of Westwood into the transitional school. That project will be, there are some buildings there that we still will be able to use, and so that project will be more kind of a phased project, which would potentially, likely, take a little bit longer than the 1 year that we're planning for Bishop.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
I guess to an answer where Mrs. Johnson just stated that if.
I'm not sure if that's you or me.
Westwood, because, you wouldn't be able, but if it's not the Westwood site, then I don't understand your thinking. If it's not the Westwood, you were saying if it was at the Westwood site, then some of the building could still be utilized with the students.
Correct.
That's if it's there, but if it's not there, then what?
You would have to move all 1,200
That's what I thought,
students
so-
to another site, correct?
Right, so the length or the amount of time would certainly be more.
If you moved all Westwood students off, that potentially could make the amount of time that you spend on the Westwood site would actually be shorter, because you're able to access the entire site all
Okay.
at one time and get the project done.
All right,
Sooner, hopefully.
okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure.
So the first project, if it were at Westwood, moving Howard Bishop students to Westwood would likely not extend beyond 3 years.
Correct. The goal would be to open Bishop in the fall of 2021.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone have any other questions? Well, actually, Ms. Clark, I have
You have one?
Mr.
Okay.
Gamble.
Well,
Was he-
Madam Chair, if we might need to check with Mr. Delaney, but should we have a motion before we continue discussion?
Yeah, we
Or-
need to share the
Oh,
board
of course, we
recommendation.
do need a motion.
Okay. I recommend that the school board select a site from the 3 options that have been provided by district staff to serve as a transition school location for Howard Bishop Middle School, Westwood Middle School, and Littlewood Elementary School.
So move.
It's been moved by Dr. McNeely.
We
We have to-
We have to select the site.
we
So
have
I
to
move that we
specify.
select Westwood as the site for the transitional
Oh.
school.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any, I guess we'll wait for discussion. We will hear from the, yes, we'll have citizen input on this motion, and then we will have
We have Mike
discussion
Gamble
among the
coming
board
first.
afterwards.
Mike Gamble.
Yes,
Have
Mike
Mike
Gamble
Gamble.
was the first to fill out a request.
Well, then I have the other 2. I'll bring those to you. They're all on this agenda item, so.
Oh, he's, Mike Gambles twice. You were making sure you,
Yeah.
go ahead,
Is it
Mr.
good?
Gamble.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I will give some of my time right now just to say that Howard Bishop Middle School has been one of the feed zone sites since we were closed this week, and it's been an honor to be associated with such hardworking people, especially all of our food service staff from the top on down, and the people that we have coming in, even our normal cafeteria workers that are 10-month employees, but they've been out there handing out the food bags. And I've been surprised at the number of folks we've had coming out to get food. We handed out over 160 food bags yesterday between 11 and 1. I don't know what the morning count was. And today between 11 and 1, it was around 120. And that's in addition to, we've been getting donations of dry goods from Catholic Charities and giving those to families as well. So we've got a lot of outstanding people from our school system that are working hard for our community. And again, it's an honor to be associated with all of them. If I name names, I know I'll leave somebody out, so I'll just say from the top on down. So thank you. Obviously, I'm here because I'm very concerned about our swing school site, and we've had some excellent meetings, including the community input meeting, which I know all of you were at Howard Bishop on the 5th, and we had some of our teachers speak. No one has come to me saying, hey, you know, we need to be at this site or this site or this site. All of our teachers and families, it's like, let's get this done, let's get this underway. As Mr. Stressing said at that meeting, if we can make this decision today, we can still stay on our timetable and have Howard Bishop new school built by August of 2021 and have our kids and teachers move in there. It's a 14-month window, it's tight. When I was on the committee to select the construction management firms, that was my main question to all of them. Can you get this done on time, and have you ever had a project go over? And they said, yes, we can get it done. No, we get our projects done on time. Thing is, they don't make any money if they're not done on time. Hearing the concerns of folks in the Westwood community about the traffic, and sure, that's a real concern. We get that. If it's to be at Howard or at Westwood, which is the most economical option, we can all see, we're there for one school year, 180 days, it's not permanent, and being first up to bat, it's a better chance of us completing that timeline within 14 months and getting us in there and out of there. So that frees up the traffic after the 2020-21 school year. So those are some concerns I had, and it was like some misconceptions I was hearing about from other folks, and again, why we have this 3 to 5 to even 7, and as Mr. Stressing explained the other week, he put the 7-year out there just to run the numbers out a little bit more, and he was even expressing dismay about, well, yeah, I kind of wish I hadn't have done that, but again, who knows what's going to happen with the 5 years. We can't predict everything that might occur, natural disasters, hurricane, but again, having Howard Bishop up to bat first, we can get there, and we're ready to get going. Again, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I know that we don't have Brian, Mr. Moore doing our time, or is someone keeping time?
I'm so sorry, I messed up, that was a job that I have to do, I'm sorry. I'm on it. Oh, you're, okay, good. I was trying
Okay.
to figure out how to make it, I'm
You're
sorry.
taking care of the time, Mr.
Thank
Delaney.
you.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Hyatt?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Andy Howell. Mr. Howell.
Madam Chair, I'll signal you at 2.5 minutes
Okay,
and at 3 minutes,
okay,
if that suits you.
okay. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and
Good
gentlemen of the
evening.
board. I appreciate you taking the time to hear a few words from a citizen. I spoke at the community meeting 2 weeks ago. My concern expressed then was in regards to the traffic on 34th Street. I live in that neighborhood. I live in Northwest Gainesville, probably a half a mile as the crow flies from that particular site. from the Westwood School, I mean. The issue all along for me has been some of the statements that have been made about the traffic situation on 34th. During the community meeting, the message we seem to be getting was that traffic in 34th would be in the range of C or D, which would be considerably better than the F grade that the multimodal level of service report has assigned over the past 10 years. So it just doesn't make sense. Why did the multimodal reports indicate F and the engineering study indicated C or D level of service for the traffic? So I downloaded the report prepared by an engineering firm. I dug into that report. Believe me, it was packed. It was dense with 373 pages of valuable information. I think I was able to make some heads or tails of the report, and just the other day I did a rather detailed analysis to compare what the anticipated projected traffic would be while TMS is in session relative to what the morning and evening peak traffic are during the commuter traffic time. I thought it would be easiest to do an apples-to-apples comparison by comparing the projected traffic when two schools are on the site compared to the commuter traffic. My findings are that for the 2021 school year, when two schools are on the Westwood site, that the traffic in 34th Street would be roughly equivalent to what the morning rush hour is in that area. In other words, the traffic would not be C or D, it would still remain at a level of F. So I do believe it is way too optimistic to suggest that the traffic will be improved when we add a second school on that site during the 2021 school year. So traffic obviously has been a big concern for many, including myself. I'm persuaded that my analysis is correct, and I thank the board for having received some of the communications from me in this regard.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. I think you're getting to the end of your time.
Yes, well, very
It
good.
is time.
I know there are a lot of factors that go into this, and I appreciate your considerations taking everything into account. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Thank you. I do not have any other speakers who've requested. Is there anyone out there who would like to speak to address the board on this issue?
Madam Chair, Mr. Delaney's actually going to walk out there too and just make sure.
Sure. No other speaker. All right then. It is now time for board discussion. We've had a motion and a second that Westwood be the choice. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Dr. Paulson.
I thank you, Superintendent Clark, and your staff for the information they've given us for this situation, the last month or so especially. When we got the thing I thought we looked at things such as buying land. We also looked at maybe delaying this vote. We looked at the cost of what of the projects and the traffic, like the gentleman said. And thanks for the testimony by the public. I thank you for getting those future projects out. I mean, that was something that concerned me greatly, and to know that there's only two more that you see this needing a swing school. But that's something I wondered about the whole time. I think one thing about the about the traffic that needs to be, when the gentleman was talking, we are going to have staggered times, I think, Ms. Clark, correct? And
Yes, sir, they're still working on the exact times, but we are.
And I remember them talking about, we could get all the buses out there before the big rush hour at 5 o'clock, have the staggered times. That needs to be put into any kind of traffic study. So I thought that was interesting too. Buying land, I think, I think we do have places that we don't have to buy land. But that's a discussion for another time. The cost, we saw where Westwood is the most cost effective, but we also didn't mention it. They mentioned 1,200 students, I think today I asked for it because I was thinking about it coming over. Westwood has 1,000 at the present time, 49 students. Bishop has 667. A lot of those Bishop students are on the west side of Gainesville already, so we'll have a pretty good cost savings, I think, on our bus travel. And I don't know if we've ever, I don't remember that being brought up during the discussion, but I think that needs to be brought up. And then the last thing about the delay. I went back and I looked at, myself. I remember back in May 6th, 2014, I asked Superintendent Lyons to look at how we could fund a state-of-the-art school on the east side of Gainesville. And I had been talked about it, but this wasn't my idea. That's something that Wes Eubank talked about many years before me. And because at that time, Meadowbrook, we saved money at Meadowbrook because of stimulus money. I think it was. We got some kind of deal because of stimulus money. So I think that it's time we get a state-of-the-art school, and the best we could do, because I remember then there was no restrictions on how we could build. I remember talking to one of the, I think it was Cynthia Chestnut. I said, well, I was talking about my idea about where we could have a school, and the two places I thought were Bishop and Metcalf. And then 3 months later, the rules changed on how we could build, how we could build, what we could build at a school. And if we delay, what else could we see happen? And make it even tougher. And the students, especially on the east side of Gainesville, deserve a state-of-the-art school. So that's why I just want to put my things on record. Those are the reasons I want to vote for Westwood. It sounds like I'm not the only one here today, but I want it on record that this is something I think we can't delay any longer. I think the traffic can be mitigated. The cost is the most efficient, and I think in the future we have, you look at, and I'm glad that here there was only 2 high schools and not elementary schools, but I think even if you look at land like Rawlings and Williams, there's land that we could use, and this is just my personal observation. So anyway, that's what I want to say. I really do appreciate it. I enjoyed looking into this and hearing things. I'm sure the other board members did too, because I know we took this very seriously, and the public took it very seriously. We had to think about what kind of effect would we have on people that lived around Westwood. Is the city going to help us? I remember I brought up before, when I started working at Buchholz, we shared Westwood. We had different times, and because we were high school 7 through 10, and they were 7 through 9 junior high. When our football team needed a place to practice because it was dark when the time changed, the city let us use the softball field there, and they let us shower in the showers. And I'm sure the city is going to make things easier on us in other ways right now. So that's my reasons why I'm going to vote for the Westwood site. I just wanted it on record. I looked into this very deeply, like I'm sure the rest of you have too. And I appreciate you letting me say this, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Paulson. Ms. Certain.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Well, after looking through all of the stuff and reviewing all of my notes and all, I arrived at the Westwood site based on the economics of it. I ruled against Rawlings because I was afraid that it would be there too long, and having the older children on that site and with the younger children, but primarily Rawlings being an elementary school that's in a fragile state, their staff coming out and speaking to us here. I went by the school and viewed the site, walked it myself, because looking at a map just didn't, I wanted to kind of know it from having walked it. I was concerned about the amount of open space that would be left for the older children, as well as for use by the EDP and the Rollins staff, the students there. And finally, the traffic in the 34th Street corridor, I am concerned about it, but I was also concerned about the impact on the residents of Northeast Gainesville in that 12th Street corridor there. I was also really concerned, like none of the study and the info that we got address students crossing Northeast 39th Avenue at I think it's Eden Gardens apartment, I'm not sure what it is, but it sits on the north side of 39th Avenue. And ideally, those students would walk up to 15th Street and cross to come to school. But I've seen kids cross and there's no school there now. And I could just see somebody coming through there and there being some kind of accident of some type of student getting hit, which is concerning to me. So the delay, didn't want to delay it, but I wish we had had time to evaluate another property, another site that we already own, but for some reason that, you know, that wasn't looked at, the Lofton Horizon site, because I really feel, you know, maybe as an alternative to having so much right there in the middle of Gainesville, but had we done it off-site, something that Mr. Stressing said that if it was not at Westwood, we'd have to transport, if it was at Rollins, we'd have to transport all the students over to Northeast, to that site over there, so, which would also impact the cost and having that. So I guess this is we'll have to make sure that our transportation department ups its game and that we provide stellar services, especially having a staggered time. We don't want students to be delayed and all with that, delayed getting to school and arriving back home from school. And that impacting on the pickup of the other, you know, the other scheduling. So I just, in my heart of hearts, is really, we're not gonna please everyone, and I just had to just kind of say that I felt that this was the best place for us to go, and hopefully we can wrap it up in the 3 years on the conservative side, and for sure by 5. So.
Thank you, Ms. Certain. Dr. McNeely.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Both colleagues have basically voiced some of the things that I'm thinking as well, but I certainly want to say that the Rollins site, I thought we probably would have much more discussion than we are having right now, but I'm pleased to say it seems as if the Rollins site would not be the best situation, especially because of the children that we serve there. And I think we heard enough of the teachers, but one in particular who spoke at the forum that we had at Bishop, also an article in the Sun on Sunday, I think explained the unity that staff feels and how they have struggled to get where they are now with that C. We are so proud of them, but we certainly cannot afford to have distractions, disruption of any kind for that particular school. Even though they are C, they're still a fragile school. And I know that they are going to be striving very diligently now that we're going to go to another year, but they are still going to strive diligently to get that school to that B level. And so I'm excited to know that so far that I certainly would address and go along with the site at Westwood for a lot of reasons.
Thank you, Dr. McNeely.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hyatt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to not repeat too many things that have been said, but I wanted to thank our facility staff, thank our planning staff, our architect. I thought, of course, we all wish he had this at 7 years, but he did such a masterful job in explaining things and expressed a commitment by both the engineers and our school district that we're going to mitigate every problem that we can mitigate. As Dr. Paulson has said a number of times, and I'm just going to underscore it, this is the biggest thing that has ever happened, the biggest project in the history of Alachua County schools, maybe in Alachua County. So, and as Ms. Certain said, we can't please everybody. But I do want to say that I so respect the citizens that are on all sides of this, and we certainly, the fact that we had time to get more input and be able to make a more measured decision, that certainly helped all of us, and I appreciate the citizens. And my last thing is, I went to Rollins last Friday and talked with Ms. Kramer, the principal. And I wanted to say that regardless of how this would have come out, we have Mr. Burney at Westwood, and we have Ms. Kramer at Rollins, and both of them are absolutely ready to do what needed to be done. Whatever the board decided, they were ready to hit the ground running and supported us. So I just wanted to say thank you, obviously, to Mr. Gamble, who we've heard from, but also thank you for wanting to do what's best for kids, for Ms. Kramer and Mr. Burney. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. You said a lot of appreciations, and I'm sure we all feel that. I also appreciate the remarks from the board and Mr. Gamble, who kind of laid it out quickly. If it's Westwood that is chosen, it will the major traffic problem will be over in a year. There's only one school being zoned to Westwood if it's the site. If it were Bishop, there would be 2 schools bused to Bishop. And that, of course, increases the cost and the trouble for the families that have to be bused. And if it were at Rawlings, it would be 3 schools that had to be bused. So all of that figured in the cost being lowest at Bishop. And so that is my choice, given that, you know, it's not perfect. No, one of the 3 is perfect, but we're choosing the best one. And one other thing I think that I saw too is that not only were these 3 sites evaluated, but 10 other possible sites were also looked at. So, you know, our staff did an extremely thorough job in the time that they had, and we all want to get this going quickly. So, we've heard from every board member, and I will now call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to locate the transitional school at Westwood. All in favor of Westwood as a site, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 5-0 in approval of this motion. Thank you all. All right, we will go then on to the second action item. Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. SBAC A1807, Transition School Site Design Development Construction Documents. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the design development construction documents for the selection transition school site, which is Westwood, based on your action.
Thank you, Mr. White.
So
All in
moved.
favor? A motion has been made.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hyatt, seconded by Dr. McNeely. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. The following item, 5-0, it passes 5-0. The following item is the lease purchase agreement. Mr. Rella.
Madam Chair, while we're waiting for Mr. Rella, I have confirmed there's no one else interested in public comment on any of the other items.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Chairman Roy and the board. Obviously, obviously, setting up a transition school is not something this district has really undertaken, as far as I can tell, in our history. So we did take a little bit of time to do some analysis on, the best way to approach this in terms of procurement. Historically, the district has always leased our units, and when we kind of looked at that option, which is option one, the operational cost per year for that option is a little over $1 million. Obviously, we've got a lot of pressure on our operational budget. That's where we pay our salaries for our employees, benefits, etc. So that was the first option we looked at. The second one was kind of a hybrid option where we would purchase 25 of the classrooms and 11 of the ancillary buildings and then lease 21 of them. When you look at the term of the transition school, obviously if you purchase the units, when you get to the end, we own them. Whereas when we lease the units, we turn those back over to Mobile Modular. So for that reason, in terms of the transition school and then going forward, we felt it was the best approach to have a lease and purchase option. So that's kind of the recommendation on the floor. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the agreement with Mobile Modular as presented.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Hyatt, seconded by Dr. Paulson. Any comments? Yes, Dr. Paulson?
I talked to Mr. Rilla about this today, and I appreciate it, and I just thought I'd like to say something about Mr. Rilla. I've dealt with a lot of people from the finance since I really started getting when I was on the budget task force in 1992 until now. That's a long time. And nothing against anybody else, and we have fine people, but I've enjoyed working with Mr. Rilla probably better than anybody. Again, this is not a slight on anybody else, but it is a compliment for Mr. Rilla. He has done a very good job for the school district. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words.
Thank you, Dr. Paulson. Any other comment on this item? All right then, all in favor of the lease purchase agreement?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion, and any in opposition? I don't think so. Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And the next one is you also, still school staffing allocations.
Thank you, Chairman. So the school staffing manual is something we always have to have approved in advance of our school staffing meetings. Those are going to kind of take place, I think, the first week in April, hopefully. We kind of always look at, what we're doing. We've tinkered with it over the years. We've added a lot of guidance and certain services for students that obviously has been beneficial. For this year, we are not recommending any changes. We've obviously got some budgetary constraints. We've also really took a time over the last couple of years to really get it to where we think it's really beneficial. So there are no recommended changes, thus no budgetary impacts for next year. The superintendent recommends the school board approve the school staffing allocations for 2021 as presented.
So move.
Been moved by Mr. Hyatt,
Second.
seconded by Dr. Paulson. Any comments on this or discussion? Dr. McNeely?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have several things, and Ms. Zarella, we're so happy that you were able to get all of these allocations straight. And the one thing that I heard, though, you said there are no changes based on what we had on last year. Did you not just say that?
That's correct. There's no recommended changes.
No recommended changes.
From last year.
So that's where I want to comment. There should be some changes, especially in our differentiated accountability schools. What we're seeing when we go to those school sites with the state people, when they come in on a weekly basis, whether it's Idlewild or whether Williams or Lake Forest, we are noticing that the teachers are a bit overwhelmed trying to do the instruction, trying to do differentiated instruction with some of the children, trying to do some independent work, and it's not working for the amount of children that we allocate accordingly, or the average. And so I would highly recommend that we look at those schools in particular as far as reducing or increasing, I should say, the allocation for instructional staff. That's one point. The point in the back with the custodial staff, the allocation, especially, I would say all of them, but especially in our high schools. The high schools are not up to par. I'm not going to say the word that I normally say to the superintendent about it, but she's quite knowledgeable of how I feel about what we can do with Santa Fe, Newberry High, GHS, View Holtz, Lofton, Eastside. I hope I've called every high school. Oh, Hawthorne High. One of the things that I'm noticing, that the way we staff our custodians for cleanliness of those schools, it just has not happened. And now that we are stuck with a newer situation with the virus, it's so imperative that we do something different with our custodial staff. It's just not enough. And I would ask that the board, my colleagues, as well as the staff of the district, acknowledge that the schools are not clean. That's the best word I could put. And inasmuch that I inquired at GHS with the administration over there and facilities staff, you don't know, and I had a tour a couple of weeks ago to see what the contracted services did, but ladies and gent on this dais, you would not believe the dirtiness of the girls and boys' locker room, where they are expected to shower, but I know they probably were not doing that in those conditions, and just the grime. I couldn't stand it. But when I went with Mr. Cowart and Principal Shellnut to those areas, and they've had a contracted company to come in to do that cleaning, you couldn't have believed the difference in what we saw. So and that's just one portion of the school and one portion at Gainesville High School, but I would imagine that all of the schools are if not in that same situation, maybe worse. But I'm here to tell you, you would not expect your children to go into those locker rooms after physical education and have to change clothing or do whatever. We've got to do better. And I think that this pandemic certainly will teach us a lesson that it should have been being done all along. But now that we are in this situation with the virus, I plead with you, please increase this allocation for custodial help at all schools. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. McNeely. Any other comments? Ms. Certain.
Well, Dr. McNeely actually touched on the conversation that you and I had earlier when I asked you. And I concur, I agree with Dr. McNeely in that I also spoke with Superintendent Clark about the staffing at the DA schools. And I know they get one extra unit, but from going in and visiting the schools during the visit with the DOE, what I've seen in those environments, it's challenging for the teacher to be able to provide instruction. And if we're expecting them to raise that school grade and the students coming with so many needs, I think under our existing equity plan, and if those are goals of ours to eliminate all of our DA schools, we're going to have to invest more resources, instructional resources in there, and I don't think the one extra unit is going to do it. Like I said, I was at Lake Forest in the 4th grade last week, and the classroom count numbers were high in each of the 3 classes that we visited, and the same when the last I was at Williams, it's the same way. My last visit at Williams was not in classrooms though, but on previous visits, that's what I've noticed, and the teachers are doing the best that they can, and some of them are long-term subs, some of them are newly minted teachers, and I just think when you've got students that come with that number of, with the number of, I don't say deficits, but that they're lacking, I guess it would be deficits, learning deficits. I just think we have to put a few more resources in that. And as for the custodial thing, I don't know how that's done, but I also, it's kind of ironic that Dr. McNeely said that, because I also had a conversation with Superintendent Clark about that. But we just have to, if they need more help, I guess we have to try to figure out how that they can do their job and they can effectively keep the facilities clean and inviting. And I know, I have seen at Williams, there are two different types of, two different statuses or two different states of being on hallways. The gifted hallway was very clean, very well lit, the floor was clean and all, and we went in the major, where the neighborhood students were, and it was a totally different, and the DOE guy said the separate and unequal facilities is very apparent. That's what he said my first visit there with him. And so we want really, I mean, even if it's our staff, just to make them more aware of the criteria and not to say, oh, well, they have a different staff person that works over there, and I'm thinking the criteria should be the same. So, but my biggest concern is increasing or decreasing the class size in those environments where we have the DA schools, and hopefully we will be able to. I know we can find money to do that.
Right, so just one comment on that, if I could, specifically on the DA school, since that came up. As we discussed today, Ms. Certain, board member Certain, the DA units that are given out by the superintendent are kind of over and above our regular staffing. But the important thing to consider is, you know, these schools, the DA schools, they're getting so many different funding sources. So they've got turnaround money that comes from the state. They've got UNICEF money that comes from the feds. They've got Title I. They've got Title II. So it can be challenging to kind of make sure you're blending those, but also kind of what we're doing is trying to make sure that the principals have access to that money ahead of time, so we can really do a thorough job of planning. So when we hit the first day of school, we're staffed up, we're ready to go. We don't have class size issues. So I think the plan at this point is to kind of bring something back to the board to, like, in general terms, this is what we plan on doing. This is how we're blending the funds. This is how we're staffing those special schools that need some additional assistance.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I wanted to, basically, Mr. Rella just said what I was going to ask for. What I was going to ask for is, based on the comments of Dr. McNeely, Ms. Certain, if we could possibly get some numbers about what's it going to cost to both with the custodial situation in high schools and more and equally or maybe more important the what it would cost for turnaround schools or how, like you were indicating, how we can funnel the money that's there in because I know so much of this money has rules and regs. Absolutely, you can do this, but you can't do this. So if we can get that information and get a price tag and move forward with that, I think that would be what's best for the kids. And so and also I'm wondering, maybe this is a Mr. Delaney question. What we're voting on today is just this, what's presented, but we're obviously, board members are asking for some more information that we can build on. Would that be correct? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So just one more thought. These kind of discussions are really part of the budget process. So that's kind of what we discussed today. Is like, this is the initial staffing allocation. As we go through the budget building and budget approval process, of course, we want the input from the elected officials. So we'll be bringing forth some information in the not-so-distant future about specifically those DA schools and the staffing, the requirements, and then how curriculum assists with the school to blend those to ensure a quality environment for kids.
Thank you, Mr. Rella. Dr. Paulson.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if anybody, they'd come to you beforehand. We still come to, when the budget, a few years ago, when Lake Forest was first we gave some units to Lake Forest. We met as a board and got extra units to put in there. Put in Lake Forest, Metcalf, and Rawlings, if I remember correctly. Dr. McNeely, you and Ms. Roy, we were all on the board together. So that's, that's some, I think we could discuss. I gotta tell you something though, out of the high schools, every time I go to Newbury, I always compliment how good that looks out there. So I don't know if I'd throw Newbury in there. And the other thing is, GHS, I used to be the football coach there. That locker room is old, and Buell says it's too. All those things are gonna be getting fixed, aren't they? Or are they not?
So,
Yeah, it's focusing on classrooms, so I don't think the actual locker room would be renovated but I would have to look at the project list to 100%.
Okay.
But I don't think so. But I will interject that I don't think it was last year, I think it was the year before. We did a complete redo of the custodial allocation formula, and pretty much every school received some additional allocation at that time to be able to add to that. And we actually added, and I want to say it was a half, and Mr. Rella can correct me, to the high schools because of the amount of extra things that are going on at their schools, all the sporting events and things of that resort. Now, with that allocation, if the schools are not getting cleaned, then we need to have some additional conversations with those principals, and then they need to have some additional conversations with their custodial staff members as well. And is it a case of that they're short people, or are we not maximizing what we have and the cleaning plans and things of that regard? We also do have schools that will convert, what we call, for yard maintenance or lawn maintenance. So many times at the bigger schools, one of their allocations is converted to contracted services to have a yard service come in instead of having their people do the grounds, just because of the cost and all the equipment and all of that. We've got pretty much every school, if not every, it's about 90% of them, have a contract, so they do that part. But I know we did look at this not long ago, but I can't remember if it was just this past summer or the summer before. So we can certainly, I've already had some conversations based on discussions with board members about particular schools, but we will continue to have those discussions as well in the meantime, because we want to make sure that they're clean. We need clean classrooms and clean buildings for our kids and employees.
Ms. Roy, one more thing.
Yes.
Because that's, now you said you've increased the units, I'll fess up to something else. We reduced those units back in the early 90s, and that was well needed. I'm glad that has happened, Ms. Clark. So, is during the staffing, were the principals giving any input to this?
we have a budget committee that meets that includes the executive staff and then also the principal representatives from elementary, middle, and high, and they obviously give their input. We did implement the new custodial staffing, I think it was 3 years ago, but time flies, the years just kind of go by. But what we kind of realized is we hadn't really reallocated units or done any kind of adjustments for I think about 10 years, and then you look at the staffing levels on like a per student basis, and so there were some really big deltas there. So that was kind of the thought process behind actually having an allocation method, because if you see a precipitous increase in the school of students and staff, which should drive in theory the need for custodial services, you need to allocate additional resources. So that's kind of what we did, and it's for all the input I've got, I think it's been really positive. I think there are certainly instances at schools where it has been an issue, and I think Superintendent Clark, we plan to address those specifically in a targeted way.
But I think some of those locker rooms would be hard to make nice. I'm sorry to say that the age of them and the way, and that's why I asked if that was in the project. If it's not, then it's not. But, and I didn't know kids dressed out, took showers anymore. That's a new one on me.
Dr. McNeely?
I'd like to address colleague Dr. Paulson. Dr. Paulson, they are as old as the locker rooms, as you stated. They are very, very old. And no, many of the students never turn on the faucet for water because it's no privacy in the locker rooms. There's no partitions, so everybody would see everyone. I get that. But even to go in to put your backpack down or to use the restroom or whatever in the locker rooms. It's just horrible. And I went into Buchholz because the principal tricked me into going into the men's bathroom last year when I was out there, and I literally gagged. So there are some things, and I'm hearing the superintendent and I'm hearing the assistant superintendent saying that more training maybe should be out to the staff members who serve in those capacities, but I guarantee you, I don't know how we've made it thus far with any other diseases or viruses because of the lack of cleanliness in our schools. And I don't want to just put the high schools under the bus, but it's basically the same in our elementary schools. And I've only been in 2 middle schools, but not clean either. And so when I have addressed that with administration, they will say absenteeism sometimes can be a problem, or they don't have enough crew. And at high school, I know Mr. Shelnut said so many times, they have guest, activities or events, and they're not gonna take the kind of care like our own students. But still, if you had gone in there, Dr. Paulson, you would have said, no way. And that's what I said. But if you go in now, I'm sure that the athletic director will tell you that they are pleased at GHS for those locations. I don't know about all of the other classrooms, but they had to bring in contracted services to get that room in par, okay?
Thank you. Dr.
Sure.
Daly. I don't see any other lights or hands up, so I will just emphasize what Mr. Rella said. There are many other streams of money that the DA schools have, which could possibly be used to address some of the problems that Dr. McNeely and Ms. Certain mentioned. As far as the cleanliness of the schools, I thought the superintendent had some good thoughts on that. I will say that we were at the meeting for the transition school at Bishop, and one of the custodians spoke who said that the restroom was just so disgusting that you could smell the restroom from a great distance away from the actual entrance. So he said, and we do our job. It's just that when something is just so old and decrepit and needing to be replaced, that sometimes you can't really do what you'd like to do. So anyway, we've heard the discussion, so all in favor of this motion to approve the staffing allocation for the present?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Reluctantly. All right. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Rella. All right. Well, I think that that will conclude the meeting, and the meeting. What? He said no. He said no. Okay. No, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.